Hi, Broadway world, and anybody else who is watching that's not a Broadway, who isn't a Broadway world reader. I'm Stephen Mosher. I am the Cabaret page editor and head writer. And as a writer, I like sentences and words and grammar. But I got this email from Sally Mays that said, how about doing a Zoom interview with me and George Dvorsky about the virtual paper mill playhouse, Pete and Keely. And at my house, most commonly known as 2A, when Miss Sally asks for something, Miss Sally gets it. So today I am an on-camera interviewer. It's my first time, so be kind. Here we have the original, the original Pete Bartell and Keely Stevens. Sally Mays, George Dvorsky, welcome to Broadway World.
Thank you,
The only
Stephen.
Pete and Keely.
What?
The only Pete and Keely.
Well, no, I mean, regional theaters do this play, don't they?
I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm
I will tell you something funny. This morning, I was getting ready for this, and my hat says to me, "Are you doing an interview with George and Sally, or with Pete and Keely?" And I'm like, "That's such an actory question to ask." But I also found myself wondering. I found myself wondering, after 21 years with these characters, would an interview with Pete and Keely be much more different from an interview with George and Sally?
Nope.
we might be a little bit more on in sequence, but it's pretty much the same.
I mean, after all this time, is there a place where the characters and the actors, just sort of meet and meld?
Well, George and I can take one look at each other and just know immediately, and oftentimes we laugh, and we kind of have we finish each other's sentences, and we don't always agree about everything, but we have this real mesh after all these years of doing this. I feel like. So.
No, we do. In fact, back in 1997, the day we met, I went to Patrick Brady's apartment because Sally was there, and Mark Waldrop had said he wanted to talk to me about a project they were working on. I knew who Sally was. I've never worked with her nor met her before. So we walked in and we sang one song together and both went, okay, that will work. And we've been like this.
We just had that blend like immediately. It just worked, and it was like kind of magic. And we both just went, oh, and everybody in the room did that. We all did it. It was like, wow. And so
she taught me how to scat.
Well, let me tell you something. Stuff was all in my wheelhouse. It's all stuff I've been doing. My daddy was a jazz musician, and I've been doing it all my many years. And but George had to learn how to do that stuff. And oh my God, he's so good. He's just. I always say that. I just always marvel at how brilliant you are, George.
I had a good teacher, Ms. Mays.
Please.
All right. Okay. On that subject, we'll get to Pete and Keely in a second. I mean, George, you are a world-class vocalist. You can sing anything. What is it like being taken out of something that you do every day and taught a completely new language of vocal ability? What happens there?
It was basically more like an extension, if that makes sense. We had every song that we had done was something, like Sally said, in her wheelhouse. I knew bits and pieces of these things, but because I felt so comfortable singing with her, I felt like I could just be guided by her and with her and get through it. So I trusted her, and I think our trust really shows when we sing together.
Sally, is scatting something that's easy to teach?
No. What I always say to people is you just have to just dive in and do it. And when I'm teaching students, and like when Jen Colella got cast in Closer Than Ever after Lynn and I decided not to do it off Broadway for the revival, we were texting back and forth, and she said, I am a little worried about the scat. I said, oh, just have a good time. I mean, honestly, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And so and it's really all about your ears more than anything else, because you have to hear all those places that, like, improvisational musicians hear. And so it's, you know, I don't necessarily even think I'm a great scat singer. I think I'm a perfectly fine scat singer. I think when I do it more, I get really good, you know. So it's about George. Also, I think that there are legions of actors around this country who are doing this in regional theaters who curse him because his range is so amazing that Patrick put him wherever he needed him, you know. If he wanted me on that big belt note, he would put George up above it, or he put George way down below it. And he can do all that. He can jump back and forth. And so it was kind of an amazing thing. And that score for a man to sing is not easy. Not that it's easy for a woman either, but it's really not hard because he's jumping around all over the place. Is that correct, George?
Thank you. And I've received texts and emails from people saying, "Damn you, George Dvorsky." I said, don't blame me, blame Patrick Brady.
I get the same texts. Damn that George Dvorsky all the time.
I think it every morning when I wake up.
Yeah, we did 2 months ago. We did it, the walk in the snow.
All right, now about Pete and Keely. So they called you a couple decades ago and said, "We're working on a project. Come over and play with us." So clearly they had you both in mind for these roles, right? Is that pretty much the writing on the wall?
Not originally.
Yeah, you tell it, George.
Jim, well, correct me, because I think we did this before, and you know some things that I don't. Jim Hindman had written it for himself and Anne Brown to do a reading of it and see if there's anything there.
But when he took it to Patrick said, "Oh, this has got to be Sally," and he started creating these arrangements. I mean, it's really one of the joys of my life is the fact that this is something that is totally created around what we have to bring to the party. You know, it's like George too, like with his incredible range and being able to do anything, but it's also really around all my strengths as an actor and as a comedian. And so it's thrilling to have something like that handed to you once in your career, even, you know. And so that's kind of where I think that they realized pretty early in the game that they were going to need to go a different direction than Jim and Anne, as wonderful as they are.
Because I was doing, at the time, we were recording at the Clinton recording studios, which are no longer there, on 10th Avenue and 46th Street. We were doing Leading Men Don't Dance that we had done at Rainbow and Stars, and Mark Waldrop had written the opening number. So Mark was at the recording session and said, "I want to talk to you about a project I'm working on." And then he said, "I'll pick you up tomorrow, go up to Patrick." I knew Patrick from a previous project. Like I said, I didn't know Sally personally, but I knew of her and was a big fan. So I was a little nervous to walk in and sing with her. I thought, she's a world-class singer. What am I going to do if I bomb? So it's basically an audition, and we sang. I don't remember what song it was.
I remember it a little bit differently, Georgie, only because I just remember that they had us come in and sit in Patrick's apartment, and then they performed like a good 15 minutes of it for us with Mark and Patrick performing it for us. And we were just sitting there like, wow, wow, wow. And then they said, "Would you like to do this?" And both of us were like, "What?" It's like, so they didn't audition. I didn't feel like it was an audition. I felt like they handed it to us.
Oh, I thought I was so nervous. I thought it was an audition.
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. They had chosen us. And then we sang, I don't remember what we sang together either. It was something that we both knew, I think. I don't think it was songs from the show. But, one of the great things about, well, I guess we'll get into this later, but, it's like being able to have a fight in a song with somebody is harder than you would think, because you have to always have that balance of, I still have to sing this, so I can't scream this too much. And you have to really, really trust your partner. And so there is never a moment that I'm on stage with him when I don't trust him to catch me and to bat the balloon back to me. And so I know that we have this great camaraderie. And I'm so glad that they used us for Paper Mill, because honestly, they had 2.5 weeks, and nobody, I dare anybody to be able to do this with the history that we have in 2.5 weeks. And I'm not
Did it?
down, I'm just saying that you just can't,
It's huge.
So the Paper Mill Playhouse. This is a filmed version of the entire play.
Yes.
They will be airing for a few weeks, right?
They're going to be airing from April 17th through May 1st, and it's for their subscribers. But they are, George, what are we doing? I don't even.
They're offering well, because of the article you posted after we had filmed it, Stephen, they got so many requests at their box office. It was going to be a package of 4 shows for their subscribers. And it was rather expensive if you only wanted to see 1 show. So they got so many phone calls for people wanting to see Pete and Keely that they arranged a house seat virtual ticket.
Nice.
So if you go on the Paper Mill website and go to the Pete and Keely section, there'll be a promo code button up in the, is it right-hand corner of the page, Sally? And put in PMPFAM as in Paper Mill Playhouse Family. So capital P, capital M, capital P, capital F, capital A, capital M. It will take you to buy a ticket. It will say sold out until you put that code in there.
Nice. I will include all of that in the text of this article, but I'm glad that you said it, because if I were reading something and read all that, it would intimidate the heck out.
Me too.
I tried it out because I had friends want, so I tried to make sure it worked easily, and it does. But it says sold out until you put the code in.
It's sort of like knock, 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 Sam sent me.
Yes.
It's kind of like booking the vaccine. It tells you that there are no appointments until there are appointments. Yeah.
Right. All right.
So that's the reason I made Georgie do it, because I was very intimidated by it. So.
Yeah. I'm one of those. All right, so now let's talk about this. How long before you started filming did you know that you were going to do this? How much prep time did it take to get you ready to film Pete and Keely?
I started on Atkins the day after Thanksgiving, because I had, just like everybody else, put on my COVID-20, and so I went right to it, and so I mean every day, and so. I still think I look like a sausage in some of those dresses, but, I did the best I could. And I mean, we are sexagenarians after all. So, but we worked on it. I didn't do anything vocally. I hardly, and when I see all these people talking about their vocal technique and all the things that they do, basically I like Patti LuPone's way. It's there. I mean, it's like, I honestly, I warm up with the opening number. That's what I do. And so I don't, and maybe I'd be a better singer if I didn't do that. But yeah, so no, I didn't do a lot of vocal prep. I did try to walk and get a little bit of cardio in so I wouldn't be completely out of breath, which I kind of am anyway. But it's a lot. I mean, that show is a marathon.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. And what I noticed this time, and I was very resentful of it, we had to wear these great big huge masks that made us look like ducks. I should have brought it down here. And wear them all day. And everybody was socially distanced, and we had to have our temperature taken, and we had to be tested every 3 days, and it was all very safe. But singing in those masks all day was crazy. And I was resentful because, when you're in a big cast, you work on your little section, your little scene, and then you go sit down, and then the dancers get up, right? But when it's just the two of you, you're standing all day long. And I was so resentful.
In high heels.
Well, no, not until tech, but I literally would I'd get to a point in the tech and I'd just go, okay, I'm done. And I'd get my house shoes and put them on because I just couldn't do it anymore. It's like, I was resentful.
Would you like to see the mask?
You have it? Oh, cool.
May I go away for 5 seconds? Sorry.
Yeah. Go away for 5 seconds.
I'm just going to turn my.
We're going to talk about you.
I can hear you. I'm just.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll only say nice things.
Be right back.
All right,
Okay.
so while George is gone, you and I can talk about this. Did you remember all the lines?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, this was not like we did it 20 something years ago and then we jumped back in and did it again. We've been working on this for like the last 4 or 5 years, kind of trying to get it perfect, because I think that it needed a little bit of tweaking, and we didn't get that lead time going into the production. And because we just jumped when we had that theater. And so there were a few little rewrites, but we've been working on it. We did the run at Birdland, and we had done like a reunion special at Birdland a couple of years before that. And so we've been kind of doing it. And so it was already right there, in our bodies and our voices. And so, no, not much.
Sally, are you? That is really dreadful.
See,
Mine is black.
Hers was black, so you have to sing in these.
Yeah. Sing a little bit, George.
It's us again. It's not Frank or Bing or Perry. You hear yourself, but you don't think you're projecting. So we were pushing a lot the first couple of days, which was.
Well, can you imagine being in the room and being the director and having to direct that? How do you even see? I mean, you can't see our faces. It's like crazy.
No. You know what? I'm so glad we're all getting vaccinated and we can go back to, a time where this does not exist.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it happens soon. I hope that we figure this all out. I really do. I'm very hopeful about it.
It's all we can be.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to have both my shots and to be, this is going to be my second week, and then I can probably maybe have lunch with somebody or go get my nails done, or oh my God,
Get a hug.
Get a hug. Well, I get those from my husband anyway, so lots of them. So
George, thank you for the visual.
Oh, you're welcome. While I was retrieving the mask, you asked about if we remembered everything. What was fun, because the original show was 20 minutes longer. What we had done at Birdland 2 years ago was a streamlined, we cut out what we called it cutting out the fat. We took out the top of Act 2, which really didn't further the plot. The Swell Queen commercial we didn't do. So this version of Pete and Keely is we say it's Pete and Keely without the fat. And it just made a more pointed story.
Yeah.
But we found, because of some of the new costumes and some of the new staging, we put some things back in, which then brought a freshness to what we had done 2 years ago. So it's kind of coming full circle, but keeping it fresh for the two of us.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, it's really just a story about two people who just love each other and can't find their way back to each other until they do. And so it's a sweet story, and I think that people need to see that right now.
You just mentioned costumes, George, and we by the time you did this, we had all been in quarantine for so long. How was it getting dressed up and putting on clothing again? Could you walk?
I did the master cleanse.
Oh my God.
I had quite a year last year. I think Rebecca Luker, may she rest in peace. She and Danny were two of my best friends, so I basically helped in caring for her. And when she was getting near the end, so many people were sending full dinners, and in that kind of situation, you eat everything. So I think I gained probably 10 pounds from November to December. So I knew I had more to lose than just the original COVID weight.
Yeah.
So I did the master cleanse, which Sally thought I was crazy, but it got me going enough that when we finally started rehearsal, because of COVID, we had to live in our own bubble. And Paper Mill has a house across the street from the theater that has 2 apartments in it. So Sally was downstairs, I was upstairs. We would cook dinners for each other, and because we were doing no carb, I'm a carbaholic. So I knew to get into those bell bottoms, I had to stop eating sugar. So That's what I wanted to wear. My bell bottoms. The jackets I thought we could switch out, and we did. But though I had to wear those bottoms because they were so indicative of 1968.
Yeah.
And going back one more second, about our relationship, and at the top of Act 2, we were talking about Tony and Cleo, and there was a bit where Sally had to kick me, and I got a laugh with my response. But the way the costume was working, she couldn't lift her legs. So I said, well, why don't you hit my armor? Then you say, ow. So we switched the laugh, but it was because the costumes informed it.
Yeah.
So it was it was just fun to discover those things as we went.
I know. It's like and there were a lot of things that were different that made us feel like, a little intense. We had a completely different musical director. Because even though Patrick, wrote the special material and wrote the arrangements and played the original show, he left right after it opened to go do producers. And so Tex Arnold did that whole run. And, as you know, Tex passed away a couple years ago. And so we didn't have Tex. And so we had to relearn a musical director. We had to teach somebody because, it's so in our bodies now that it has to be at a certain tone and it has to be a certain way. And so, and then Bob was for not able to do it. And so, although he left also after it opened to do producers. And so, but he's played all the concert stuff. And so, we didn't have the same piano player or the same bass player or the same drummer. And so that was an adjustment as well. We just had to kind of feel our way through it.
And because of the speed and the short time of rehearsal, we had the drummer with us with no baffling for 2 weeks.
Which also
so wearing this with a full drum kit behind us, it was a little rough that first week. I started thinking I'm going to sing everything an octave lower just so I don't blow it out before we even get to the theater.
I don't know. I told George after the first day of rehearsal because when you wear a mask like that, you're breathing your carbon monoxide out and then breathing it right back in again. And I literally had to go outside and take the mask off and put my head down between my knees and just breathe, for a few minutes, 2 or 3 times a day, the first couple of days until I got used to it, because it was so jarring to me and it was exhausting having to keep all those protocols up all day. And as grateful as I am for the job and as grateful as I was to be working, I looked at George and I said, if this is the future of musical theater, I'm out. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to sing. I want to be able to spit on you.
Well, and plus not doing anything for a year and then get back together to do a 2-person show. It was,
And okay, so about that, it's a 2-person show and it's a musical comedy. And when you did the play 21 years ago and then did the return of Pete and Keely 2 years ago, you have an audience there to give you the energy. What's it like having to do that in an empty, humongous theater for a movie camera?
wah, wah.
How did you give each other the energy?
Yeah,
How did you do
again,
that?
because we know each other for 20 years like this, she and I can look in each other's eyes and just telepathy, we go, okay, hold here, let's change this up. It was difficult with no applause and no laughs. And thank God we know where those things land.
That's what saved us, is that we know where all the laughs are and we know all the beats of this so well that it was okay. And there was we would do, because when we got into the theater and we were teching it, we would tech in our masks and then we'd take our masks off to perform it. And so the first time that we really sang, and when I sang Black Coffee for the first time, the stagehands and everybody cheered and whooped and stuff. And when George did Fever, because it's they finally were able to do that for us, but during the filming, they didn't want them to do that because they put in applause and they put in laughter. And so they had to be really quiet. So it's just kind of cricket, cricket, cricket. It's hard.
And it's weird. It's weird performing a live show in an empty theater.
Yeah.
So your acting skills had to go up a level.
Well, I mean,
Up and then
up and
Smaller.
smaller because it was on camera. So, you know, like, and I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen the end product yet. I saw this clip and I saw a couple of things, but I haven't seen the end product. So I don't know how I feel about it yet. I may not love it. I don't know.
That's right. We have a clip. We have a clip.
We do.
Our wonderful producer, Becca Parker, needs about 10 seconds to cue up the clip. So let's take a look at this. Which number is it, George?
It's our finale. That's all.
Okay. Becca, are you ready? Do we have a clip? Let's take a look and see Pete and Keely at Paper Mill Playhouse. Here we go.
I can only give you love that lasts forever.
Forever.
And a promise to be near each time you call.
I promise.
And the only heart I own for you, you alone. That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all. Well, I can only give you country walks in springtime. And a hand to hold when leaves begin to fall. And a love was burning light. The warm no winter night. That's all.
That's all.
Oh, baby, that's all.
There are those, I am sure, who have told
I never listened
they would give you the world for a
Oh,
toy.
baby, all I have are these two arms to enfold you.
And I have a love that time can never destroy. If you're wondering what I'm asking in return,
Wondering
dear,
what I'm asking
you'll
in
be
return,
glad to know
dear.
that my demands are small.
What about my demands?
Say it's
Me
leaving
and
you
you,
for now and evermore.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all. Oh, baby, that's all. That's all. That's all.
That's all.
That's all. That's all. That's all. That's all. Shake a dig a dick, 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 shake a dig a dick.
Da 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 da.
Ba 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 da ba.
Da 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 da.
Ba 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 da ba.
Da 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 da.
Ba 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 da ba.
There are those I am sure who have told you
They would give you the world for a toy.
all I have are these arms to enfold you, and I have a love time to never destroy. If you're wondering what I'm asking in
If you're
return,
wondering what I'm
dear,
asking in
you'll be
return,
glad to know
dear.
that my demands are small.
What about my
Say
demands?
it's
Me and you, for now and nevermore.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all.
That's all. That's all. Well, that's all.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen watching, you can see that without streaming difficulties by visiting Paper Mill Playhouse website.
Watch it.
I
I
want
just
to-
discovered that I can't watch it.
You know, I don't think if I were a performer, I don't think I would look at myself on camera either.
No.
You know?
Oh, it's horrible.
Oh no, it's the worst thing ever. And oh, that's just it. It's just the worst thing ever.
You hear TV and movie actors who say, "Oh, I don't watch the things I filmed." I always thought, wonder why they don't. And then when you watch something you do, you go, "Oh, now I know why they don't."
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Because what we remembered it looking like and sounding like isn't what we just showed.
But it looks beautiful. It looks colorful and fun and electric. So I
Good.
can't wait to see it.
Good.
This play over the years has developed are you aware of this? Pete and Keely has a huge cult following. Do you know this?
no, really?
No,
That's kind of
because I know this because I read a lot, and I belong to a couple of musical theater groups on Facebook, and I read things in the chatterati in the chat rooms. And Pete and Keely has a huge cult following. Do any of the fans of this show ever reach out to either of you?
Sometimes.
here and there, but I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean,
we're called. Yay! Love that.
we thought that the this show. We were so like uber confident about this show originally. We thought that it was totally going to be this huge thing. We thought we were going to be hosting the Easter Bonnet as Pete and Keely. We thought we were going to do a Christmas album. We had the whole thing in our head, this fantasy, because it was just so much fun. And because of the response of the audiences that came off through previews, they lost their minds over it. And so we thought it was going to be this big, huge hit. And then it opened and boom. And so it's nice to hear that we're a cult thing. I like that.
Well, then I'm glad to be the bearer of good news.
Thank you.
Stephen.
Perhaps with this film, it will have a new life.
I hope so. I mean, I think that this is probably the end of the road for George and myself. I don't think we're going to be doing this anymore.
Well, it is time for you to do other things.
Pass the baton.
Pass the baton to somebody else. I mean, but I'm glad that we got to capture it on film. They never shot it for the archives at Lincoln Center when we did it originally, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
We really only have like bootleg of the original one. And so I'm glad that we have some version of this, even.
And it's a deceiving piece because people think, oh, let's do a 2-person musical and we'll just do, it's songs that people know. Well, when they start rehearsing, because I've had friends who've done it. Like I said, they text me and say, damn you, George Dvorsky. But even the women go, how did you guys learn this? We worked on it for 4 years.
Mm.
In fact, the first reading, right, honey, it was, McGraw's was like 3.5 hours. Right?
Because we had, not only did we have the USA medley, we had the international medley, which was equally crazy and wonderful. And so, I mean, Patrick, some of those arrangements I wish I had now. I still wish I had them. I didn't keep them.
I remember singing, I thought I took a trip on a train.
Yeah.
And I thought about you.
Yeah.
I love that song. And I was sad to see it go. But even tell the Porgy and Bess story.
Well, so originally, the Battle Hymn of the Republic that we do, it was Porgy and Bess.
Uh-huh.
And what was funny about it was that George sang the high part and I sang the low part. And
but it was Bess, you are my woman now. You are.
And it was very like pretentious and hilarious and all the same kind of stuff in it. But the Gershwin estate would not give them permission. And it made Patrick so mad that he went, well, I'm just going to find something that's public domain. And that's where it came from. And so it was like, I think it's funnier. I think it's hilarious.
But at first they brought it in and handed it to us and we both looked at it and went, like Battle Hymn of the Republic?
Oh, it's not Porgy and Bess,
And then when we ended up, in fact, the week after we closed, right, honey?
It was the night we closed,
did
or the
Phyllis
day after we closed, I think.
Yeah, we went over to do Phyllis Newman's, what was it called?
Celebration of Life, or the cancer thing she does.
It's usually all women. We opened the show and people like, what was that from? We want to see this. He said, we just closed last night.
I think that was the Nothing Like a Dame series.
Yes, that's it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We just have to remember everything.
Well, is the Battle Hymn of the Republic? It's in this movie, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Because if it had been Porgy and Bess thing in today's climate, you could not have done the Porgy and Bess medley.
No. So it was like kind of brilliant that it happened that way.
Yeah, it was fortuitous. All right, I'm going to close this up, but this video will accompany an article with all of the details so that people can go online and buy a ticket and see you guys as Pete and Keely one more time.
I think.
And one more thing about it,
yeah,
folks, if you do, when you buy your virtual ticket, you only have one opportunity to watch it in those 2 weeks. If you start it and think, oh, I'll come back, it's only 70 minutes long, so you're not gonna be sitting there all night. But if you start it and think, I'm gonna take a break and come back, it disappears. You only get one chance to watch it in those 2 weeks.
So
and I think that the tickets are $30. Is that?
Yes.
They're only $30 for the.
George, you're such a good PR man.
Well,
it's Act 2.
$30 to spend 70 minutes with Pete and Keely, huh?
that's not bad.
good deal. You can, from your home, you pop some popcorn, you brew your tea, and you settle in for some sequins and song.
Great songs, great costumes, great comedy, great acting, great singing.
Great friends.
That's what
Amen.
it's all about.
I think it's very clear. I think it's very clear from top to bottom and from beginning to end that there's so
We
much.
take care of each other.
There's so much love. It's like it's not just with George and with myself. It's also with the care that Jim Heinman took with the script and with the care that Mark took as a director and as a lyricist. And Patrick, he sent us like an arrangement tweak, you know, from his, you know, he's now he is a musical theater teacher at Shenandoah University. And all I keep thinking to myself is those lucky, lucky kids.
Yeah.
But he did take the time to do that. So it was very nice, you know.
But because the 5 of us worked on it for so long, I think it's such a labor of love at this point that this was our last go at it, because we won't ever do it again in a run. So this was kind of fun to, like we said, come full circle and yet still discover things about us, about Pete and Keely, about Mark and Jim and Patrick, the whole thing.
It's a full family reunion.
It is.
It is.
You know, and it took 21 years, and you get to put a little bow on it.
That's
Yeah.
right. And it was such a nice closure, you know. And I have to say, Paper Mill was a lovely, fun place to work. They were so wonderful. They were so wonderful to us. They treated us great. And so thank you to Paper Mill. Kudos, you know.
I'm
And
really
because of Nor'easter, we had 2 days off.
Right.
what happened?
We were supposed to film February 1st and 2nd. Or no, rehearse it first, film on the 2nd, and the Nor'easter hit. So we had that Monday and Tuesday off, which made us do a dress rehearsal on Wednesday and film on Thursday.
What'd you do for 2 years? Just 2 days? Just sit in the apartments and cook?
And watched it snow. We went to the store the night before, right? We went, because I came back to New York.
That's right.
Came out before it started. We went to the store to get stuff for the next 2 days.
Watch the snow a little bit. And, you know, we didn't do much because we weren't supposed to go out if we didn't need to. You know?
I made her keto meatballs.
He did. They were yummy. And the night after we finished, should I tell this?
Yes. This is Pete and Keely.
This is Pete and Keely. The night after we finished, we went back to our apartments and George went and picked up a pizza and I baked a pie. And George brought a great big huge piece of cake that he had cooked. or what you had it like in your, and we just
I had a piece of red velvet cake.
because he hadn't been able to eat the whole time. It was really funny.
We were 2 slugs enjoying the fruits of our labor.
Pie.
Across the finish line, that was your reward.
That was our reward.
Yes.
That's right.
Dyed hair and all. Most of it's coming out already.
Oh,
Excuse me. Okay, you guys, thank you for doing this with us today, for helping me have my maiden voyage on camera. I can't imagine 2 people I'd rather have done this with.
Oh, thank you. You were
you
great.
make this a
Thank
regular
you.
thing, Stephen, because you look gorgeous. You should,
And you're so natural at it.
and you're very good at it.
Thank
So
you.
should do it.
Thank you. I think I look good because I'm in my husband's recording booth, you know. When we went into quarantine, we spent a month eating popcorn and watching Netflix. And then after a month, he said, that's enough of that. And he went into our spare room and soundproofed it and turned it into a recording booth. And he can do his voiceover work in here and do Zoom readings and stuff like that.
That's
And
great.
And I can be a floating head.
Well,
You are
you're
a floating
terrific.
head. I was
Yeah.
you're thinking he looks like a floating head. But you're very
on
floating head.
on Easter Sunday, my brother called me and he said, if you'll log on at 2 o'clock today, we'll have a Zoom meeting with Mom and Dad and the family. And they had never seen this. And so it was like they were all doing this. Yeah, it was like that scene in the movie where the baby's in the crib and looking up at the parents looking down on them. So, you know, my mother kept saying, Stevie's a floating head. So yeah, here I am.
That's funny.
All right, you guys, I can't wait to see Pete and Keely. Thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Stephen.
doing this.